Gentlemen, I am only too aware that the murderer must not be allowed the opportunity to commit another murder. But to press clear-cut charges against somebody, based only on conjecture and superstition, and lacking any evidence at all, gentlemen, think. Let's say you arrest Janos Dalmar as the murderer, and say for fun that you bring him up for trial. Just what would you base your case on? Here we have a judge. Let's pretend we're in court. How would you go about stating the prosecution's case?
First of all, absolutely all the girls in the district are, well, they're,
Amorously inclined towards the Baron?
Precisely.
A jury might consider it relevant, but is it evidence? Not by any means. Your proposal is certainly acceptable, but I want a guarantee of some sort. I can't just liberate Robin Hood. The moment he's free, you could refuse to go through with the marriage. And that wouldn't be right, would it?
You have my word. The word of a Saxon noblewoman.
Ah, but should it be taken seriously? In proposing to me, your word has already been broken. Your word to Sir Henry, remember?
If you wanted to humiliate me, then you have succeeded. Now, I'm waiting for your answer.
All right, Marion. Your proposal is taken. I accept. But I intend to keep Robin Hood a prisoner until after the marriage ceremony, my dear.
Jack the Ripper?
Yes, his signature's all over the bodies of those two women.
But surely Jack the Ripper's dead, isn't he?
Undoubtedly, or extremely old. After stabbing his victims to death, he cuts out a portion of their anatomy. Each time something like this happens, Scotland Yard receives literally hundreds of letters confessing to the crime. Only this time, I've received one which really seems to have been written by the killer.
Well, go on. Why don't you read it?
My dear Mr. Campbell, I don't want you to be influenced by anything you may read. The papers seem determined to compare me with Jack the Ripper, and though I admit there are certain similarities between us, I hope you are astute enough to recognize a distinct difference of style. I promise that in future our differences will become increasingly obvious.
You have no right to detain me.
You really think not? May I remind you that we're here to investigate a murder?
Murder, you say? But she took her life by her own hand.
Oh, yes? Perhaps you'd tell me how she went about it.
Me? How should I know?
Why, it's obvious. First she tied a noose round her neck, then she climbed into a nearby tree, attached the rope to a branch, and then down she went. Simple, huh? Funnily enough, however awkward it may seem, one must realize that that's what she might have done. To tell you the truth, I might have been led to accept this theory if only there weren't other evidence to make us think differently. For example, we found traces under the tree which strongly indicate the girl's body had been dragged there, which leads to the conclusion that she did not arrive alone. And then there's the fact that close to the tree, we found a pistol which had been fired recently, and we found the deceased's fingerprints on it. If she'd wanted to commit suicide, why then didn't she shoot herself? Well now, Professor, you are supposed to be the man most dangerous to the free world, the organizer of guerrilla movements and revolutions. So you understand, Professor, it was a foregone conclusion. By accepting the presidency of Tricontinental, you signed your own death warrant.
How much did they pay you, General Ufkir? You'll never win. The world will rise when you kill me.
One of our ministers said, the streets are wide in Morocco. One random shot, one person killed, and the people will run.
All men like you, General, aren't only criminals, but idiots. To think you can suppress the will of the mass struggle.
All right. Why don't you call the masses of the people? The Africans, Asians, the Cubans. Where are these masses who follow you? You will pay for that, Barker. Just as you'll pay for your stubbornness and your constant betrayal of our nation and motherland. Lois, my dear, I don't believe you've thought a lot about what you're saying.
I still don't think you have any chance of getting the result you want.
I'm sorry, dear. The first experimental results are positive. Listen. I've been doing all this not just for myself. I did it so you could have everything you want. And don't forget it.
Please, Professor. Dr. Wilkes is in the reactor room. He might come in.
I'm on the verge of discovering a secret that will lead to immense power. Do you understand, Lois? Just think of it. I can create an immortal man. I can grow a forest where there was only desert.
And destroy the balance of nature? Is that what you're hoping for?
No, it's not.
Oh, God. Why must this ghastly sacrilege continue unchecked? Is there no way of ending it? There must be a reason for all this horror. If we could only find a motive for killing all these poor nuns. But I cannot see why anyone would want to do such a thing. What if Father Inardo was right? It looks as if we're face to face with a supernatural phenomenon. What other explanation is there for these awful murders, other than devil's work?
It's the work of a sick mind.
My little angels are behaving themselves well today, too. I'm so glad. Good morning, Alaric. Up you come. Come on, come on. What a life you have. The official lazy bones of the house.
I'm really so terribly sorry, sir. I broke a cup, but it wasn't the good china. May pay for it out of my salary.
The muse of tragedy isn't necessary, Maria. Anybody can break a cup. It isn't even very original.
I'll replace it, sir.
You seem just a little nervous today. Is something bothering you?
Mm-hmm.
Talk it over, my dear. It's better, you know. I'm always ready to give you my counsel. You know I'd like you to think of me as your father. I'm always ready. Hmm?